Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, uh, to this show. We want to appreciate you guys for always following us on this show. And we thank you for always sacrificing your time, your energies, your abilities to make sure that you watch our show. And of course, regards to all our viewers out there. And of course, we want to appreciate the Humanist TV Africa colleagues. Um, Bongol in the studio, Katomo Kasa. We want to appreciate you guys for giving us the space and the opportunity to speak out to the people and also keep sharing ideas, keep sharing issues to do with consumers. And of course, we also want to thank those who have kept on sharing their messages, their comments, those who have been subscribing to the channels, and those who have been liking the shows. You keep energizing us. We want really to appreciate you. Today, I'll be taking us through today's episode. Henry Chimera, my colleague, is not around today. He sends you greetings. He's on the move, but I know that next Friday we shall be with him. And today we are discussing a very critical aspect, reminding ourselves of a few things that we've been talking about, but most importantly, looking at the role of consumers in ensuring that the food that we are eating is actually safe. Because we would actually ask ourselves who's responsible for the food that we eat? And if I am the consumer of the food, of maybe the electricity, or whatever it is, what is my responsibility? What is my role in ensuring that the food that I'm going to eat is actually safe? Do I have a role as a consumer anyway in ensuring that what I'm going to eat is actually safe? So we need to reflect around that area to ask ourselves, what is my role? What is my contribution to ensuring that whatever is going to be served to me is actually safe? I know that the Uganda National Bureau of Standards and other national Bureau of Standards everywhere in the countries, they have come up with standards around food. What is the standard of food additives? What is the standard of a stall of food? What is the standard? I mean, a lot of standards exist, a lot of policies are here, a lot of laws exist out there on consumer protection and other things. But the question it remains, what is my role as a consumer in ensuring that what I'm going to eat is actually safe? So I'm going to quickly remind us of the basics around safety of the food that you're talking about, and then later on, I'll reflect on the consumer rights and responsibilities, and then we dive into what your role or what my role would be in this whole thing. So first of all, when we talk about food safety, what are we talking about? I have to tell us that food is the critical element that you cannot survive without. Every one of us eats. Just imagine if you took a week or so, or even 2 days without having a meal, what is happening in your body? So, food is a basic need. Food is one of the items that, whether you're a baby, an adult, elderly, every one of us is supposed to eat. So, food is something that unites us. Food is an element that you cannot live without. If you want to die early, you just desist from eating. You say, I'm not going to eat, and so you go into a hunger strike, and suddenly we may bury you. So, food is really a critical, basic need that each one of us needs. Now, you realize that our health actually depends on what we are eating. If you look at people who are sick, for instance, every time you're in the hospital setting and you're sick, let's say you have malaria or you have any sort of disease, when doctors are prescribing the medicines for you, they will tell you this medicine you need to swallow it, or you need to take it in after you've eaten food. Or they tell you as soon as you eat this or you take in this medication, you must make sure that it's not taken on an empty stomach. They can even go ahead to prescribe particular foods. For instance, if they gave you Coartem, which is an antimalarial, they will tell you that you have to take it with a fatty media. Or in our context, they'll tell you have a cup of milk and then before you can take Coartem. So basically, from the medical school, it's we say that you must have food for medicine to work. Actually, there's no medicine that can actually serve the purpose unless it has an interaction with food. So there must be an element of food. Besides, every time people fall sick, you realize that one of the elements they will put on you would be maybe glucose. If at all they see that your glucose levels are very low, which is still food. So you see that food is part and parcel of us, and actually we must have the food. And then also you realize that yeah, if someone got sick, they'll make sure that they give you particular foods, let's say fruits and vegetables to boost your immunity so that you heal faster. So if even people who are not able to eat at a particular time because of illness, maybe you are not able to swallow, you are not able to chew food, or you're extremely sick, we shall still make sure that we pass the food through the NGT tubes, through those tubes, through the nose. So they put up a tube to make sure that the human being is actually provided with food, irrespective of the circumstance. It is the same. If you have a baby and you've just delivered, before even we wash the baby, our interest is how do we initiate breastfeeding so that this baby starts getting food. So that is the relevancy of food. That is how big the subject of food is. That's how important food is. But now the question is, which kind of food are we giving to people? Which kind of food are the processors, are the manufacturers, are the restaurants, are the hotels, or are the households, are the street food vendors, are the market vendors giving the food, rather to the people? Which kind of food are we giving to people? Or which kind of food are we providing to ourselves? Because I have to keep saying that every one of us is a consumer. Whether you're president, whether you're a minister, whether you're a street food vendor, whether you're a boda boda rider, each one of us is a consumer of food. Now the question is, which kind of food do you have access to? If you're the one providing the food, which kind of food are you providing to consumers? If the food you're providing is for other people, which kind of food is it? And so we start reflecting on the safety of the food. How safe is the food? If you're sick and they tell you to eat food so that you get immunity and you cure very fast, in fact, if you consumed unsafe food, you actually become even more sick, and even that can propel your death actually, and you die early. So we're now reflecting on which kind of food are consumers having access to? Which kind of food are you guys who are providing the food actually providing to the consumers? And I want to quickly run through some of the food that we see you guys giving to us. So, most of the food now we see, which is supposed to be giving us life, tends to be killing us. I would say killing us, because at the end of the day, when you give us food that is unsafe, you're actually literally contributing to disease. You can just imagine that. Okay, I wanted to upload some. I wanted to upload something here so that we can see it, but I think I'm limited. I see some. Okay, all right, there we are. So I just wanted to share with us what what exactly are we consuming? What exactly are we giving to consumers in terms of the food that we are giving out to them? And how relevant is this? So, one is that if you look at the kind of food that we are now giving to people, if you just look at those photographs, who is actually behind post harvest handling? Who's responsible for drying this food? Who's responsible for grinding this food? Who's responsible for transporting this food? You realize that even when you're the one who is farming, or you are the farmer, you realize that it's the same food that you're going to eat, meaning that you're a consumer. So at that level, what are you doing to make sure that what you're going to consume is actually safe? One, you're a farmer, but at the same time a consumer. So what is your role at this point? Your role then would be, how best do I handle this food in such a way that by the time I eat it, it's actually safe for me? Or in a situation I am sending it out for someone else to eat, maybe by the time I send it to the market space, it should be safe for somebody who's going to get it. Now, just imagine this kind of food being dried on dusty roads, being dried in your village towns, where motorcycles, the vehicles, the goats, everything is really passing by. So how are you contributing to the safety of this food? Or actually, how are you becoming a menace to the consumer because of your poor handling mechanisms? Many times, people produce food, and when they produce food, they assume that they are producing food for the market. And so they handle food wrongly, and then they take this food to the market. It is very unfortunate that every time we take this food to the market, we assume that it has gone away from our hands. We actually forget that if, for instance, I have this maize and I take it for processing and I sell it off, these guys who are buying it bulk, they will bring this same maize of yours and they put it in the shop. And when I put it in the food shop, you will come tomorrow in the morning and you go and buy maize flour or you go and buy cassava flour. Actually, which cassava came from your household, but now it has been processed into flour. And so you find it in the market and you cannot tell that it was actually the one that belonged to you. So you still buy it. And when you buy it, you go back and consume your own food that actually you handled badly. So when you talk about food, it's a chain. Just know that what you're producing, you will eat it in one way or the other, or you'll find it somewhere else. Just imagine a farmer who mishandled grain of wheat, and then tomorrow that same farmer comes to buy chapati or goes to buy bread. The chapati or the bread was actually made using his grain, but the grain had actually changed form from grain to flour. And I mean, so what is the role of all of us in ensuring the safety of the food? One of them would then be handling the food in an appropriate manner, ensuring that the way you handle food dignifies the person that is going to consume it at a later time. And you are not sure who that person will be. It could actually be you, but you're eating it in another form. What was grain is now maybe has been transferred or it has been processed into chapati or bread. So you see that you're actually eating your own, but in another form. So it is therefore your role as a consumer to make sure that the way you're handling food dignifies the people or other people or other consumers who are going to eat it. So make sure that the way you're handling food is appropriate. Make sure the way you're drying food, you're really not drying it on bare ground. You're not drying it on stones. You're not drying it on rusted iron sheets. I mean, you have to think about every time you're handling food, think about it as a consumer first because you're gonna eat it. You're the first person to eat that food. So this is a reflection of how people are actually handling the food and they forget that actually they're going to eat it. So if you look at the way people dry the food, you find a lot of food on tarmac roads. I have kept on mentioning this that every time, every single time, food is poured on tarmac. You like it or not, as long as there is heat, as long as it's shining, as long as there is sunshine, the heat that is going on the tarmac road. Because people say that when you pour food on the tarmac, it dries faster, which is true. But the question is, what is making it dry? What is making it dry is that the sun hits the tarmac, and then the tarmac, because it's black, it absorbs a lot of that heat. And mind you, as it's absorbing the heat, part of this of tarmac is actually wearing off or it is melting off, and then it finds food. And when it melts off and finds food, this goes into the food. Now, a particular processor or a farmer will assume that I have my maize on the road, on the tarmac surface. And then when you assume that, it is going to dry very fast, which is okay. And then when it dries very fast, you go and process it and sell it off to off-takers, to retailers, and all those guys. But remember, a substantial amount of tarmac has already gone in, what we call now the tar, that black thing. It has already gone inside the food. Actually, that is why you see some of the roads, actually all the roads have to wear off at a particular time. Where is the wearing off going? Every time it wears off, it means there has been melting kind of component happening. But then when it melts and finds food on top, that kind of tarmac or tar will actually go into the food. And then when you go into the processing, it will mix up. I have a vivid example or scenarios where people say that if you have cassava, you know very well that cassava is supposed to be white. But in some places where cassava is grown, the cassava is actually black because of the handling. It was put on the tarmac, and so kind of it becomes black. And now people say that when you get this cassava that has been dried on tarmac roads, if you have very small quantities and you put it in water, it actually absorbs the water faster. And so people were proud saying that no, actually this is the one which is good because you use less flour and then you cook more but using less flour. And so they think that it touches the water very well, it mingles very well. So the issue I kept asking them, so why do you think it mingles very well? Because it is sticky. Probably it is sticky, but what is making it sticky is probably the tar. Because I mean, this is more or less of attachment on surfaces. But so when you put this flour in the water, it has of course to absorb water very quickly because it's already having tar. So you see that when we think about food as a farmer, think about the same food as a consumer because you like it or not, you'll produce it, but tomorrow you'll go and buy it from a shop and you'll still eat it. So it is just the same as coffee. If you buy coffee, tomorrow you go back to the shop and you buy now coffee that has been processed for your tea or for your coffee, whatever. You realize that your same coffee has come back to your table. So, as a farmer, as a processor, don't think that you are not a consumer. You're going to eat that same food. So it is imperative, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that every time you're handling food, think about it as a consumer. Think about it as me who is going to eat it. Because after all, you'll find it and you'll eat it. So the mishandling of food must stop by consumers who are maybe in the category of farmers, in the category of processors. Let us handle this food in such a way that is going to give life to whoever is going to consume it, not causing them disease. Just know in the world now, the World Health Organization is reporting that we have now 200 over 200 diseases that are associated with food safety. That you have 200 diseases. If someone just said mention any 10 diseases, it can even be difficult for some of us to mention. But we have 200 plus diseases that are associated with contamination of food. That people are in the hospitals sick, dying because they consumed unsafe food. Who made this food unsafe? It is still us who made it unsafe. So you the farmer, you the processor, you the transporter of the food, you the consumer, we are all consumers. And so we must take precaution of how we are handling the food. Recently, I think in December last year, there was I think 75 consumers who got sick and they were hospitalized. And when they were hospitalized in one of the districts, I think it was Hoima, all of them had consumed a particular yogurt. There was a particular yogurt being sold by one of the community members, and people fell sick. But one of the investigations that were carried out indicated that we have people who are making, for instance, yogurt or ice cream, but they make sure that their children cannot consume the same product that their parents are making. And so we're like, okay, so if you're making this kind of product, how come that your children, you cannot serve the same product to your children? And one of the ladies told us that when she looks at the process of making her yogurt, she feels that she cannot serve it to her children or her family members. But remember, she's serving it to other people. So we kept asking, so why do you give others what you cannot eat? She said, no, man, the process we really make this thing, I think is not really good for my children. So there was some bit of syndicate. So in the same community, there were two people. One was making yogurt and the other was making ice cream. Now, the lady who made yogurt told us she can never consume yogurt she makes and she can never give it to her children. Now she sends these pieces of okay, she packs it and then she sends it to the market. But she has a particular person in the trading center who buys this yogurt and sells it, and actually it is sold continually. Many people drink it, many people take it. And also the person who is selling this now the shop attendant who is selling the yogurt, also at her home she makes ice cream. So we visited her as well, and she's like, the ice cream she sells, she never eats it, but she sells it also in her shop. So in her shop she has two things: she has yogurt from the neighbor and then her ice cream. The neighbor who gives her the yogurt can never take that yogurt, and then also herself who is making ice cream can never take ice cream that she makes. So these two ladies are making food products that themselves cannot take. The most unfortunate bit is the person who makes yogurt prefers taking the ice cream from the other lady. So whenever she's supplying the other person ice cream, rather yogurt, the other person gives her in exchange ice cream. So when we asked now the two, they had never understood that each one of them is not eating what they are making. So when we put them together, they realized that one was eating ice cream from the other person, and this one was eating yogurt from the other. But all of them were fearing because the way they were manufacturing or they were processing it was not healthy. So each of them was receiving the balance of not preparing food well. You're eating a yogurt which you didn't make, and someone else made it for you. And also, this one who made the yogurt is eating ice cream, which ice cream was made by another. So you see that food unites us, you like it or not. The only thing is we have to keep it safe. So when maybe proceed to the slide, if you look at that next slide, you realize that the way people dry the food in our homes, the way the big guys dry the food on the roads is really appalling. If you look at all these photographs, if you go to such a village and the goats, the pigs, and whatever, they are just really playing in the food, do you ever think that you are the person who's going to eat this food? Do you ever imagine that this food will land on your table? Many of you do these things and you think maybe the food will go to the schools, which is okay. But whose children are in those schools? It is our children. So a child leaves this food with the goats playing in, with the rabbits, with the what, with the everything wrong. And then this child goes and finds the food from her home or his home in the school. And so we eat it. I have seen parents whom have always complained about putting rodent poisons in beans in your stores. And you think that maybe this food is not going to come to you. No, your children will find those beans in the school and they will eat them, they will fall sick, they come back home. When they come back home, the money you just used, rather the money you just got from selling these beans, you get the whole of it and you go and use it for medication of the same child. So the food safety, we need to reason it out. We need to think about every practice that you're doing. Just imagine that you're the one going to consume that food tomorrow, or even that evening, by the way. So why do you think that this food will go to Kampala? The Kampala guys will only do one thing. They will process it into flour and send it back to your village, and you find it in the shop. So it is the same food you send to Kampala that actually bounces back to you. If it is milk, and let us say at the point where you are bulking milk, you're putting it in one place so that the big boys come and pick it. And then you start using it, rather, you start using wrong chemicals to preserve the milk. For instance, you start having formalin to preserve the milk. These guys will come and pick the milk, they just go and pack it, and they bring it back to you. So you who put the formalin, you will still find it. So what I'm trying to relate here is that all of us are consumers. Even when we tend to think we are farmers, we are producers, we are transporters, we are whatever, at the end of the day, your food comes back to your table and you eat it. So your role is assuring the quality handling of the food. Very critical for you. That every time you handle food in a manner that is disgusting, you know that food will bounce back to you. So, how responsive are we? How careful are we to make sure that the food that we are giving out, that we are putting on the market, is actually fit for human consumption? Using the example of the goats here, there is one of the big processors in town in Kampala here. I one time visited that site and I found that that processing plant, these guys had dogs. The dogs that, okay, these are security dogs, they're the dogs that keep the place in the night, etc. So when they had procured the grain, we found dogs, about 8 dogs, sleeping in the maize. dogs just sleeping in the maze, and the workers are there, but there's nobody bothered about chasing away the dogs, and they are urinating there. The dogs are just comfortably in the maze. And then we kept on seeing these guys getting that maize from the sun as they take it inside for processing. Now, guess what? All those workers in that place, in the evening, they go to the nearby shop and buy the same kawunga or the same posho. And then for them, they jealously don't want to chase away the dogs which were sleeping in the maze, assuming that they will not have a share. But at the end of the day, they leave that factory or that processing unit just outside there. Their sacks of portion written on even their tag, their trademark, and they're buying a kilo, they're buying 2 kilograms or whatever. And also surprisingly, sometimes their boss gives them some bit of, maize flour every month. Okay, this is maybe Casimo, go and use this at home. And but you have been seeing the dogs, sleeping there, urinating there on top of the food, and then you just grab it and you pour it in the hala, or you get it and put it in the processing machine. But you're the same person who was watching the dogs, who was watching the cows, who was watching the goats, who was watching the rabbits urinating in this food, and you kept thinking that you are not going to be a beneficiary of it. So you as a consumer, at whatever level you are, you have to be cognizant of what you are giving out to the population. Because after all, you are going to eat it either directly or indirectly. In the indirect way, it would be that you can go for a party or a wedding and you find this rice or you find these beans or ground nuts or whatever, which you actually processed in your plant in the morning, and that is where you messed up with it. But you find it in a wedding, you find it in a party, you eat it in a function. But this is yours. You're even the one. Actually, I give the example of women who have resorted to, they want money very fast, so they harvest the maize and then they dry it with glyphosate or Roundup. They just pour Roundup on the maize so that the maize dries very fast. Now, as soon as they sell, to the middleman goes, takes it to the processor mills it, and then they bring it back to your village. And those same women, they get the money they just earned from their grain. They go and buy posho, which is having the same glyphosate they put there. And then we start seeing the cancers coming on. We start seeing children with a lot of ulcerations, which are not necessary. We start seeing people getting sick of diseases we do not even know. And then we start seeing doctors prescribing medicines. They say, oh, you have an infection. But we don't know which kind of infection it is. Is it a bacterial infection? Is it a viral infection? The doctors also are stuck. They just give anti drugs just to make sure that they help you. But this is because of the mishandling of the food, which you assume you're not going to eat. Now, you just imagine in a community where you have maybe 1,000 farmers and each one of them is doing a wrong thing on a food. Do you realize that the one doing wrong things on the matoke, the one doing wrong things on beans, the one doing wrong things on maize, the one doing wrong things on peanuts, the one doing. So you find that that is all the food that all of you consume at whatever level, whether you're in a wedding, in a funeral, at home, etc. We're going to again to get the same food. So we need to be careful. Which food are we eating? Which one are we serving out? Because it will come back to you. So how do you handle that? Recently, there is a story that I shared with you here. How a gentleman who has been processing groundnuts for the last 25 years here in Kampala town was testifying that actually, when he doesn't come to work, he has his old boys, his sons. When they come earlier than him, they will get the groundnuts and pour them in the machine. But we know that in those machines there are rats which sleep there. And he was telling us that there is no single day he has ever come to his processing unit and he never sees rats. And not just a rat, these are hundreds of rats because they come to feed on the groundnuts in the machine, those leftovers. And so he says that when he comes, because he's an old man, he first runs the machine so that he creates some bit of noise, and then the rats run away. But when his sons come in the morning, they don't have the time. They feel like they have to get on the batch that was left there yesterday night. So they just get the groundnuts, pour them into the machine, and run it. The machine runs, and the rats are inside there. Remember, the rats have no big bones, so all the bones are squashed there. And it becomes part of the veneer. Now, this is a processor telling you that. So of course, the people who work there, his children and himself, they are also consuming the same vinyl. If they don't consume that, they will go and buy from another colleague who similarly does the same. So the issue of consumers, all of us to think that we are consumers and we become more responsive on how we handle the food is something critical for us. Yeah. And of course, issues of aflatoxins, the way we are breaking the ground nuts, all this can attract aflatoxins. But which environment are we using to actually process the food? How do we handle the food? Under what circumstances? How clean is the environment that we are using to do this? Because at the end of the day, when you make OD from these ground nuts, you like it or not, you will also consume the OD. So if you pack the vinyewa or the groundnuts in a dirty polythene and you are doing it in the wrong place, you're doing it on the wrong surface, at the end of the day, you will eat the same. So you as a farmer consumer, you need to be already responsible for how you're going to do that. Which machines are we using? Now look at this kind of machines, just like I've talked about. So the owners of these machines who are processing our groundnuts using these machines, they will still feed on these groundnuts. Okay, the leaders. Let us talk about the leaders. Our leaders who are supposed to be monitoring these machines, who are supposed to be closing some of these processing units, who are supposed to be responsible for quality control. Whenever you visit these sites and you see machines of this nature, and you keep quiet because you've been bribed with the 50,000, you will buy these ground nuts just one shop away and you take them home and you consume them. You consume them, you eat a lot of metals, you eat a lot of dirt, eat a lot of aflatoxins, and then tomorrow you're sick. The 50,000 they gave you for bribing you for not doing what you're supposed to do, you will take it to the hospital and they charge you 10 times more. So why do you think that it is the consumer who's going to suffer as if you are not? So the issue of responsibility, the issue of doing what you're supposed to do comes in handy. You as a consumer, you need to take responsibility. You need to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do to protect other consumers and also protect yourself. If the inspectors are not doing something on this, they think the consumers are the ones suffering at the expense of the 50,000 or 100,000 they have bribed you with. My friend, you will find this food in the next meeting you're going to attend. It is the one they are cooking for you. So you must make sure that whether you are a policy maker, whether you're an inspector, whether you're a technocrat, whether you are whatever, you must make sure that you do things right as a consumer so that you show the solidarity. You make sure that you exchange, the will of other consumers. What is this food going to cause to me and my fellow consumers should be the interest. Even you guys who have these machines and you're the ones running them, just know that even if you dodge eating what you are processing by yourself because of the mess you are seeing, you are going to get this food which is similar to what you're producing here from another person. So, how responsive are we? Is the interest that I'm talking about. You guys who have processing units which look like this, what do you think? Do you think you are not consumers? Do you think you're not going to eat this food? Are you thinking that this food is for other people? This is the food you're processing, but look at the processing unit. The cobwebs have been here, I think, for the last 5 years. When the machine is vibrating, they're going into the food, And then, I mean, what are we up to? What are we even thinking about? Do you think that you can ever eat the food that comes from here? Okay, yes, you can dodge and say, I am not getting food that is being ground from here. You have a neighbor who is similarly doing the same, and you'll find it there. Or you will find it now when it is packed. The guys have packaged it and you go and find it, but you are the one grinding it in such kind of place. The cobwebs, the infrastructure is wrong, the machinery is non-food grade, everything is wrong. So why aren't you thinking that you are equally a consumer? So, processors, rethink the way you think about food. Don't think that your role is to process and add value to food. And you're calling it even value addition. Actually, I don't see which value you're adding to it. Because at the end of the day, you are contaminating the food and actually you will feed on it. So, let us be more responsive. Let us be concerned. We need to be ourselves. Think about yourself and the next person whom you're going to supply this product. You know, What about these guys whom I've always shown you? The guy has a machine, first of all, which is a wrong machine in a wrong place. Hmm? And then where we're supposed to pour the grain is where the man is stepping. Does he think he's not going to eat this food? Why is he stepping where the food is supposed to be passing? And that's why he's putting his feet. Does he imagine that he's not going to eat part of this food? Or he's just reasoning that, oh, after all, I'll make money, I'll sell it off, I'll give it to other consumers. He forgets that he's a consumer. So, what I'm saying is that we must make sure that all of us, whatever you are doing, put yourself in the picture of a consumer. Imagine if you are the one eating this food, or imagine that actually you're supplying this food to a value chain, and that value chain will come back to you or your household. I mean, a lot of things. Every time you have groundnuts in the shop, how do you keep them? How are you storing them? In which environment are they? I mean, how do you make sure that the safety of this food is guaranteed because you are also going to eat the same food? How do you transport the food? Just imagine that transporter who is carrying the bags of maize on top of the car, and the dust is entering all over. And look at the second truck there. Some maize is in the sacks. Another batch of maize is just on the floor of the car, on the cabin. Now the question is, these are guys who are already stepping on top of that food. These are the guys who are putting dirty kind of whatever. The car isn't clean, isn't probably suitable for carrying food without being packaged, etc. But do they ever imagine that they are the beneficiaries of this food, or they are thinking that they're going to sell off and that is all? You've seen people carrying cement on top of food, and then you're like, okay. But then when they reach there, they offload and part of the food is taken to their homes and they eat it. I have seen people who go and wash their vehicles in the rivers or in the lakes. But these are the same people whose wives or children are picking water from the same water source. But you've washed a car with engine oil, with whatever, and has gone into the water, and your child is picking it. I mean, you're going again to receive it home. Do we ever think about this as consumers? Do we ever reason it out? Do we ever imagine that actually what you're doing will come back to you? What goes round comes round. So we need to be careful on how we are handling food as consumers because it will lead us into trouble. These guys who are joking with tomatoes, who are joking with the carrots, and they're just dumping them anywhere. It has been raining, and there's a lot of mud on it. They are going to be the same people who will get these things, and they get them in a restaurant, or they get them at the chapati guy, or they even eat them live. But they're the same people who are mishandling the food. So they are consumers, but at this level, they think that for them, they are traders, and so they can do anything with the food. They forget that this same food, they will find it in the restaurant, they will find it in the market, they will find it at their homes, and their wives are already cooking it. They will find it everywhere. And if it is contaminated already with microorganisms, what is going to happen? So what they took lightly, they're going to pay for it in a way. They'll fall sick and they stop trading. They'll get all the money they have been whatever, and they use it for, for treatment, etc. What about my brother here who's on the chapati there? Probably has taken a week or so. He has never cleaned those clothings. You see even the underwear. You can even see the underwear there. And the guy is sleeping on top of chapati. But this is chapati that is going to give to someone's child. He's going to sell it to somebody who has been working money the whole day. And then the chapati makes the person sick. Mind you, this gentleman, he might go to a restaurant, and the restaurant came to buy chapatis from him, and then he says, "Okay, give me a chapati," and they slice for him whatever he had supplied it to them. Or if that is not the case, he will also get part of these chapatis and eats them. So I mean, the issue of food, at whatever level you are, you have to look at it as a consumer. Whether you're a farmer, whether you're a processor, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a market person, whether you are whoever is touching food, think about it as you who is going to eat it, because after all, it will find you there. I have seen people in schools who prepare our food, the food for children in schools. You see a man of reproductive age or a woman of reproductive age, and the person puts off a shirt when they're going to mingle the portion. And the guy starts sweating from all over, and the sweat is dumping into the children's food. And then they think that maybe this food is going to be eaten by children or teachers. And then they forget that at lunchtime, hunger doesn't know who. They also feed on the same. They start cooking this food, very dirty environments and whatever, and they think that maybe the food is going to be eaten by children, but they forget that actually they are part of the beneficiaries who are going to eat the same food. So somehow we must look at everything as us. You just assume that you're the one who's going to consume this food. So when you look at the flampens, the cooking utensils that our people are using on the streets to prepare food, how safe are they? How clean are they? How often are they cleaned? How is the environment? Those same boys who are making us chapati and whatever, they will eat the same food. So we should be able to think about it in that way. What about these guys who are packing for us juices, which I don't know whether they are juices, whether they are what? They go and collect bottles from sewage plants, not well cleaned. Then they start packing juice, they start packing bushera, they start packing whatever. Now, if you don't clean this bottle appropriately, you'll find that during the course of your movement, as you're trying to sell, you'll also get a bottle and drink. So it is up to you to make sure that the safety of this food is guaranteed, because at the end of the day, you're a consumer as well. And then at the end of the day, we hear that our maize is posing cancer risk. Why is it posing cancer risk? Because it is endowed with aflatoxins, which aflatoxins are coming because of mishandling at the different levels. And then this maize does not segregate because they're saying Uganda's maize. And all of us are eating Uganda's maize. In our schools, 18 million children are feeding on 2 plates of maize every day, actually three. If they take porridge in the morning, they take lunch, they take dinner, 3 plates, and they're at school for 3 months. So those are 90, those are about 900 plates. I don't know whether they're 90 plates because they are 90 days times three. You're talking about around about 27 kind of whatever plates they are consuming. Just imagine 3 plates per day. Every 10 days, your child is taking 30 plates. Every 10 days. Meaning that every month, your child is taking around about. So if you have if you have 30 plates per 10 days, so every 10 days, just know your child is taking aflatoxins or chemically treated beans 3 times a day. So every 10 days, those are 30 plates. Just imagine 30 plates just every 10 days. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And this child is in school for 90 days. So you just imagine 90 days, and each day you are taking 3 plates of contaminated food, what that would mean. What about this gentleman who decided to get treated posho, treated maize, which was meant for planting, and he made posho out of it and supplied? You can see a batch there being supplied, and you can imagine that even his taglines are there, and then we are not even arresting the person. If he has bribed the policeman will find this kind of maize inside the market and they will buy unknowingly. So, I mean, each one of us should really look at food at another level. Look at these consumers of these services. They are spraying, but they're not having protective gear. Do they understand that actually this is causing trouble to themselves? Do they know that actually these chemicals are going into their eyes, into their mouth, into their ears, into their skin? Do these consumers understand actually that during the course of production, they are causing trouble to themselves, especially if they are using highly hazardous pesticides? I mean, do we have this at the back of our minds? Does this consumer know that when they get these bottles, which have been having chemical compounds, maybe they have been having pesticides, and they put them in the kitchen, and then sometimes they even start using these bottles, empty bottles, to carry water, to carry cooking oil, to keep salt, to keep sugar, to keep majani or tea leaves, to keep coffee. Do they understand that this is a risk? Do they know that actually there's a problem that they are creating out there? Do they know that they are causing trouble to their bodies? So, reasoning like a consumer at every point is very critical. That every time you get this, have you read this information? Do you know what they are saying about this product? Are you reading the signs in there? It's very critical for us as consumers to be aware, to be informed of what is going to happen. What about these consumers of these other services? Look at how the gentleman is comfortably spraying, and this whole thing is coming in back to his mouth, his ears, his eyes, his skin, his whatever. Is he aware of the repercussion that this brings? Is he thinking as a consumer? Is he reasoning as a consumer that at the end of the day, while he wants to kill the insects, while he wants to produce a lot of food, is he thinking about himself as a consumer and then the consumers who will be passing by, the consumers of the air around where he's spraying, consumers around who are going to buy his produce? Do we think about this like consumers? What is this having, the implication of this on the consumer? Look at this father here who is mixing his chemical around his children, and these are kids, and assuming this is a highly hazardous pesticide. No child is protected. They're just there and open, and the guy starts spraying them. I mean, is he thinking that these consumers are actually, these children are consumers, and actually they are consuming whatever he's spraying? Those are reflections that we need to reason out. Do these consumers think that when they are spraying and they are not protected, they are half naked, and another person is, they're spraying near the water source and another person is picking the water? I mean, do we ever think about it that, well, I can spray and this is near the water source, and this water is going to our tap, community tap, where our people are picking the water, and actually your children are also picking the water, and this is the water you're going to find home for washing your hands, for cooking your food, for drinking? Do we ever imagine it that way? I don't know. I mean, when we put chemicals on top of vegetables like we see in Kampala, do we ever think that actually whoever is putting them is also a victim? I don't know whether we ever imagine it that way. Because just imagine this: a vendor who is in the Nakasero market, or a vendor who is in Kalere market, and they're applying Mancozeb. One, Mancozeb is a highly hazardous pesticide, rather a fungicide. You have put it on your tomato, and basically you put it with your bare hands, meaning that your hands already have some bit of powder from Mancozeb. And then every time a consumer comes to buy, a customer comes to buy, you sell. And now when you're selling, what is happening? When you sell these tomatoes, you are touching them, you're packing them in the Kavera, and you're giving to somebody else. But when a chapati man passes by, you're like, oh, I am hungry. Please, can you offer me chapati of 1,000? The chapati guys quickly give you the chapati of 1,000. Hardly do we see the vendors going to first wash their hands with soap for them to start eating. We see most of the vendors actually just picking a chindazi or bread or whatever it is, and they start eating, but they have just been touching the tomatoes with chemicals. So while for them they think that the tomatoes will keep longer, while they think that the consumer will go home and they wash the tomatoes, what about them who have been touching these tomatoes with their bare hands, and now they are touching food and they are eating? So did they reason at one point that they will actually be consumers of that mangoes before even the consumer who bought it has actually cooked it? So the role of us consumer, we need to really think deep that everything that is happening, it is us the consumer, or it is us to consume it anyway. So we need to think about so many things. You just look at our women and men who go to saloons. Every time you're in a saloon, you see people. I don't know. I really don't know whether it is lack of seriousness. The women are in the saloon, and then the saloon attendant, is actually spraying the head with that the sprayer. Mhm. And then another woman is eating right there, is eating. But this is a sprayer. The person is spraying the head and that hair of the women, and then this the whole jelly thing, and then but someone is also consuming from the same. I mean, the question is, why aren't we thinking as consumers? Why do we want to think that I'm in a salon and then you forget that you're consuming? I have seen men who are in the garage. Very interesting. They bring them food in the garage and they start eating from the garage. But where they're eating from, there is already engine oil, there is whatever there. And then after they have eaten, first of all, they eat while they're touching metals with oil, metals with whatever, and they forget that actually they are consuming. They just, I don't know whether they forget that they're actually consuming food, which food is supposed to give them life. But why do you want to take food alongside the engine oil? I mean, when did we reach this level? So I think that there is a lot of work that we need to do as consumers to protect our being, to protect ourselves. So I've already shown you this. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I was just trying to give a snapshot of how we need to be cognizant as consumers of what we need to do. Having said all of this, uh, Bongole, you need to give me some bit of consumer rights. Consumer rights. Each one of us has a right. Okay? Each one of us has a right or different rights. Now, after showing you how food is part and parcel of our business, and you know that food is a basic need as your number one consumer right, you have all those basic needs, but food is one of them. And we're talking about adequate, safe, and nutritious food. Now, if food is part of your basic needs and you're already contaminating it the way we have observed, whom do you blame if you can't do something? So, if you have an opportunity of doing something, please do it. In other words, protect the basic need of human beings. Make sure that you handle the food appropriately, knowing that this food is a basic need for someone else and yourself. Let us look at the next consumer right. If you look at the consumer right to safety, looking at where I've come from, what I've been explaining, how safe is this product that you're handling, that you're going to give to the consumer? Now, you, the consumer, you know that you have a right to safety. When you go to a market and you see food that is having white stuff, chemical, and you are observing with your naked eyes that this is a chemical, why don't you remember your consumer right on safety and you don't buy that so that you keep safe? When you go to, let us say, when you go to a garage and you see that the environment is not clean, why don't you want to protect your safety? Why do you want to eat from those areas where we have chemicals flowing? If you are a consumer, why don't you observe that now this product I am going to eat, the flampen they are using is not clean. The small towel they are passing on your chapati is not clean. Why don't you think quickly about your safety? Because this is your right, but you have a responsibility to make sure that you achieve this safety. And you people who are giving us the food, do you ever think about the safety of the person who's going to consume your food? You people who are giving people chemicals to use, do you teach them about the safety, how to use the safety gear to make sure that they are not actually destroying their bodies, they are not killing themselves during the course of spraying? Are we cognizant of this? So, me as a consumer, I need to demand for my safety. But are you demanding for that safety, you consumers? Are you demanding that your products, the products that are giving you, are actually meeting the safety standards? Are you bothered? Are you joining the campaigns of demanding for safety of these products? Let us look at another right. We have a right, of course, to information. Are we giving our consumers enough information on the products that we are making? If you are producing a particular product, are you writing on it to indicate to the consumer that this product is high in sugar, this product is high in salt, this product is high in caffeine, this product should not be eaten by children? Are we providing sufficient information for consumers? And as consumers, are we reading the information that is being provided, if at all it is provided? Are we bothered to actually understand the information that the processor or the producer is actually giving? And you, the processors, people who are giving us the food, is the information you are putting on those packs actually right information, or it is just misinformation and disinformation? I have seen sometimes the adverts are pseudo, very deceitful, that when you drink this particular soda, then you'll start flying. That kind of thing. But where is the regulator? Is the regulator regulating the information that is being provided to the consumers? Okay, as the consumers, when we see this kind of misleading adverts, are we bothered to demand for the right information? So it's still our responsibility to do that. When you look at consumer right number 4, you will appreciate that when you look at the next right, which is I think more or less of education, looking at, are our people educated on whatever we are providing them? So we need to be careful. Every time you think as a consumer, think about the right, think about your responsibility. Are we demanding for safety? Are we demanding for information? Are we even holding people accountable who are giving us wrong information? So I will implore all of us consumers. One, we need to advocate for ourselves. No one is going to advocate for us. We need to stand up and advocate for safe and nutritious food in our countries, wherever we are watching from. If you are in Uganda and you see advocates coming up and are speaking about highly hazardous pesticides, which are actually claiming so many, perhaps many lives, which are dangerous to environment, our environment, which are dangerous to life, which are cancerous, which have been proven to to have an effect on aquatic life, which have been proven to be disastrous to bees, we should be able to come together and join hands and advocate something against that so that our safety is guaranteed. And then we are able to receive healthier options. Join the advocacy campaigns so that you advocate for your safety, you advocate for your safe food. Secondly, well, let us aim at demanding for awareness sessions. We need to be informed. We need awareness has to be created, but it is us to demand for it. Do you ever demand for an awareness campaign in your community? Do you ever campaign for education, sensitization? Do you ever, because every radio in Uganda, for instance, has what we call the government hour. Every radio, it is a must. You must have a government hour. But how often do we teach our people about food, nutrition, and whatever? And those are the core things. But it's all about politics. How do we leverage on this as consumers to tell our leaders, to sensitize us, to educate us on things that actually matter to us? What about rejection? Why don't you reject products that are not safe? Why do you go and buy things which you know that are not safe? Reject them. Reject. I mean, that is your role. You need to be able to reject what is not safe. But many of you, because it's on the market, then you just buy. No. You have a right to safety. You have a right to information. When you get the right information, you should be able to work against the unsafe products. And therefore, you need to be able to reject what is not safe. Why do you go, for instance, to a restaurant and you see people serving you even food from a kavera, from a polythene bag, and you continue to buy it? Why? Why do you go to someone who's selling commando or who's selling chapati and you see the guy passing that can dry that a cloth and the guy passes it on top of your chapati and you take it? Why are you not rejecting it? Why do you go to the market and find tomatoes endowed in chemicals and you take them? Learn to reject what is not safe for you. As simple as that. And by the way, the more we reject those products which are not safe, the more the owners of those products improve them. And that is it. That is how big a consumer is. Remember, we are the biggest in the economy. We are the ones driving these things. We are the biggest entity. If the consumer is not there, all other products will collapse. So reject what is not safe. Demand for your rights. Demand for what belongs to you. It's all about that. And make sure as consumers, we are in solidarity. We are working together. When I reject this, you also come and reject it. The other one rejects it. So that if you are 10 of us rejecting the same product, the owner of the product has to go and reformulate it or give us a better deal. This is our role. This is our mandate. I mean, let us hold people accountable as consumers. If someone is providing unsafe food, why aren't we holding them accountable as consumers and we reject their products? Or we actually even go and sue them. Why are we not suing people who are doing bad things to us? If, for instance, I found somebody who has gotten treated maize, which is supposed to be for planting, and someone has made a portion out of it to give to the schools, why don't we mobilize ourselves as consumers and arrest such a person and we grab him by ourselves and we take him to police for further action? The issue of solidarity. So we need to do our responsibilities very well for us to be able to access safe and nutritious food. The moment we leave our rights and our responsibilities in the hands of the food processor, or in the hands of the farmer, or in the hands of whoever is giving us the food, we leave them to make for us choices, we are finished. So we need to be able to reason out our choices. How are we making our choices? How do we make sure that whoever is providing us food is held accountable to make sure that they follow what we need? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we had for this show. Of course, with so many things, we need to be represented, of course, just like I kept on saying. Do we have actually a consumer movement where we can always go? Do we seek for redress? Are we able to go and ask Whenever I have a wrong thing that I've bought from somebody, do I have the capacity to quickly go back and pick a new item or seek for redress? And actually, our regulators, where is the redress mechanism? Do we have that? And our consumers even demanding for a redress mechanism. There is a policy that is being developed in Uganda, I think the Consumer Protection Policy, which perhaps will highlight all this. But why do we take many years without such policies in place? So we need a lot of work. We need to support our consumers, but as consumers, let us be the ones demanding for education, for awareness, for choices, for redress mechanisms, for safety, for the environment that is healthy. Let us be the ones to drive it. We need to demand this. So, of course, as I mentioned, we have also our responsibilities. Let us do our responsibilities very well. Critically be aware, read everything on those packs. Make sure that you act whenever things are not well, quickly. Go into action, mobilize yourselves, and we go and act against it. Let us be socially concerned. As we are dealing with communities, let us be concerned that everything in the community belongs to us and we must deal with it holistically. Let us make sure that the environment we are living in, we really know it. We understand it, and so we are the ones to drive what is happening next. So, those are some of the concerns today, ladies and gentlemen. I want really to applaud you for paying attention, listening in, sacrificing your time, listening to these discussions. And of course, Bongole, my colleague in the studio, thank you so much for ensuring that we have a clear space. Our people are listening in. You're able to run here and there the presentations, and you're making sure that the show is live and clear. Our colleague Mukasa, thank you for always hosting us on this show. My colleague Henry, irrespective of the fact that you're not here, we want to thank you for always putting in your time. And of course, my colleagues at Consent, we are very grateful for always supporting us, ensuring that we have everything in place to run the show. And of course, all our viewers and listeners, our sponsors, and everybody, our donors, and all those guys who are giving us potential to be here, we want to appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I think we shall meet again on Friday, God willing. Let us not miss the show on Friday. Thank you, and have a blessed weekend ahead. Thank you.